Okay, so we're here for the last character in our series before our wrap-up video, and this one is Difficult Manager Micki. And if we were in a live audience, I'd ask for a show of hands. How many of you have ever worked for a difficult manager? Well, I do have a news flash for you. No manager is perfect, but it's your manager, right? The individual, he or she, is your manager at this point in time. And guess what? They get an incredible vote in your success, and they get a vote in basically how you feel about the workplace, your work, and sometimes even yourself on a daily basis. So, drawing upon the themes that we've used throughout this series with difficult characters, whether you have a micromanager, an absentee manager, or a dictator manager, there's some common things that you have to do. You're going to hear about empathy in particular, right? I do want you to focus on gaining insights. I want you to recognize that, hey, it's your responsibility to actually flex, to reach in, to lean in, whatever the term happens to be, and better understand what's going on with your manager. One of the things that I always like to do, and I think it's just a fabulous way to gain context for their thinking, is do everything I can to understand their priorities. How are they evaluated? What are the goals that are really important to them? How is the unit that they're responsible for evaluated? What does it take for people in your organization to get ahead? Are they an individual that wants to get ahead, that wants to succeed? So, you can't always come out right away and ask these things, but some carefully crafted conversations and regular contact, no avoidance, will give you the insights that you need to begin moving forward. So try to understand their priorities. Number two, tailor your role, tailor your style, tailor your approach to the individual. In a perfect world, for all of the leadership courses I teach and all the executives that I coach on leadership, I obviously indicate and support and push them to be the ones that tailor their styles to you. Life just doesn't happen quite that conveniently. So I want you to accept that you need to tailor your style. If there's someone who wants a lot of contact, it's a micromanager, you can certainly work with them. Give them input, give them context, ask their perspective. If the micromanaging is getting in the way of the work, do a little feedback. One of the things that's important for me in this role is for me to prove to you that I can be successful. If you'd give me a little bit of leeway on this particular initiative, I'll make certain to update you and keep you apprised of everything. I'll actually turn the micromanaging around and kind of micro-communicate with them. So tailor your style. Very importantly, I want you to keep your thoughts to yourself. One of the most destructive behaviors that I see people do is they talk about the boss. And I don't care if it's on a Friday night, if it's over beverages, if it's on a business trip, whatever it happens to be, there's never a time to talk negatively about your boss. Because guess what? That boss chose you to be successful. That boss gets a vote in your future success. So you really have to watch that. I want you to think about becoming an ambassador for their agenda, for their perspectives, for their issues throughout the organization and represent their viewpoints. And I want to throw in a health warning here. Every once in a while in our organizations, we end up working for people who probably would be classified by people who have a degree to be able to do this classification, psychologists. Someone is a narcissist or a psychopath. The psychopaths in particular, there's nothing you can do. You want to do everything you can to run in the different direction. For just about every other character, though, it's up to you to figure out the formula to be successful with them. It's not up to them. You've seen them. They're either that micromanager or they're their absentee manager. They're never around. Well, you've got to find a way to reach out and communicate with them. Or they're a bit of the dictator manager. In the near term, it's your job to make them successful. Tailor your style, tailor your approach, and you'll find that your days are quite a bit happier. We've met some interesting characters together in this program and explored some ideas and approaches to help you navigate and ultimately succeed with them. And yet, I once wrote in a book, my first book, that this job would be easy if it weren't for the people. Well, people are what we have to work with. So what I'm encouraging you to do in closing here is cultivate that mindset that communication success is your responsibility, right? You need to be a fierce listener. You need to truly show respect to individuals. You need to empathize with them. You need to recognize that many people are going to resist new ideas. We just fundamentally don't like change. So use that persuasion cycle from resisting to listening to considering to doing and ultimately glad they did. Remember that just about every conversation in the workplace that's not about the sports or weather is effectively a negotiation, and all of these tools that we've talked about come into play. You get an opportunity to gain more support if you give control. You give control, you're going to gain support for your initiatives. Do people favors, offer people suggestions. One of the most powerful tools that's underutilized in this world is the concept, the principle of reciprocity, which is, hey, if I do something for you, you fundamentally recognize that you owe me something. That actually is a universal principle found in every society on the planet Earth. So one of the things that I counsel and coach managers and leaders, formal and informal, to do is to make certain they're doing as much as they can to support and help extend the agendas and give help when asked. Because at some point in time, you're going to need their help, and that principle of reciprocity will come into play. Remember, words are your friends. I've suggested some wording throughout this. Under what circumstances would you consider? I know it's difficult to be you in your role. What would you do in this situation? What do you perceive are the risks, and how would you approach it? All of those terms might, and the reaction I often hear is they might feel a little bit like weakness. They're actually strength, right? You're using those approaches and those concepts to gain insight, to gain the context, so that you can begin identifying solutions that actually create value for everyone involved in the process. And that's one of my last 2 points. I want you at all points in time to be working on creating value for people. Some people listen to the term and they hear this concept I talk about of persuasion, or specifically positive persuasion, and they feel like it's manipulation. Well, done properly, with the intent of creating value for all parties involved in the dialogue, it's absolutely not. So, okay, you're armed with some insights, some tools, and some approaches. I want you to go out there and I want you to take on the challenging conversations. And if it doesn't go well, come back and take on the next one, and eventually you'll begin to develop the process, the tools, and the words to get it right. Best of success.